Hello class, how are you doing today? I'm so excited to have you back. We're going to be continuing investigating forces. Moving on, actually continuing with chapter 1, we're just going to do the next section of it. So we'll start off with some review from yesterday. Yesterday we talked about force, we talked about a push and a pull creating motion, and we talked about how different forms of motion can be created. So what I want you to have ready is a pen and your 2 flashcards from yesterday about force and motion. We'll be using these later when we make a couple more flashcards for our vocabulary terms. So starting off, I want to talk about an object like a pen. When we rest a pen on our hand, it doesn't move. This is because there's no force, there's no push or pull in any direction. So the pen stays in place, the pen doesn't move. It actually has what we like to call balanced forces. So there's always the force of gravity. That's the force of the earth pulling objects towards its surface. And then there's the force of the object beneath, the object being pulled down by gravity. So the force of my arm is equal to the force of gravity, therefore the pen stays the same. If I increase the force in my arm, the pen goes up. Or I can even throw the pen in the air and drop it because I'm looking at a camera. If I decide that I don't want to supply the force anymore, the pen falls on the ground because the force of gravity is stronger than the force of my hand. So we've got a couple interesting things to think about there. The fact that force is all around us at all times. Everything that you see is being impacted by, at the very least, gravity and whatever the object's sitting on. So the camera that I'm filming this on is being impacted by the force of gravity, but the force of the table that it's sitting on is strong enough to balance the force. It's a balanced force. If this table were made out of tissue paper or cotton, it wouldn't be strong enough to carry the camera, so we would have an unbalanced force and my camera would go crashing to the ground and break, and I would be out a significant amount of money, which would be very unfortunate. So these are some ways we can think about forces in everyday life. Another force is not just up and down, but side to side. So you can roll something back and forth. And it may not seem like a push or a pull, but when I push, it rolls forward. When I pull, it rolls backwards. So when you push and pull, something that's round can roll back and forth. So I've drawn another example up here of balanced and unbalanced forces. You see both drawings are of very well done tables. They both have an apple sitting on the table, the same size. This table is made of a very sturdy, strong material. So the force is equal to the force of gravity. Therefore, the apple will stay in place. It will not fall through. In this drawing, the force of gravity is much stronger than the force of the apple. So this will cause the apple to break through the table. So I don't know what the table's made out of, maybe plastic or some sort of wet cardboard, but for whatever reason, it's not strong enough to support the apple. What I would like to do right now is introduce you to the vocabulary for this lesson, and then we'll start reading over the chapter again. So your vocabulary cards for today: balanced forces, unbalanced forces, and gravity. Some of these are repeated in the core vocabulary for the lesson. We have at rest, balanced forces, direction, force, gravity, motion, speed, strength, and unbalanced forces. The ones with the blue stars next to them are your core vocabulary words and the words that you should pay the most attention to throughout this lesson.